Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Diane's been working with buyers and sellers in the Missoula market for over 25 years and shares her insights on the local housing market. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO.
Okay.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for making Missoula Real Estate Today part of your Independence Day weekend. Glad you're with us. Presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, who has invited the Watershed Education Network. They were with us once before, early in 2019, but it wasn't Katrina. It was Deb. Deb must be gone, and you drew the short straw, right?
I did.
You had to come in and talk to me. Anyway, this is Katrina Thornus, Watershed Education Network Community Coordinator. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. And we'll get to more about the Watershed Education Network, but the reason we invited Katrina and the organization back right now is that they're involved in an event that is sponsored by Windermere Real Estate called SUP Cup. And what is the SUP Cup, Katrina?
This year is the 7th annual Windermere SUP Cup.
Yeah.
And it's a stand-up paddleboard competition on the Clark Fork River that benefits the Missoula Food Bank and us, the Watershed Education Network.
Is it hard to paddleboard? I have no idea.
Oh, well, you make it as hard as you want it to be.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it can be a real easygoing time.
Yeah. So it's a race, but it's more of a fun kind of thing.
Exactly. Think luau afterwards.
Okay. All right.
And that's the spirit of the competition.
Keep your eye on the prize.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And so, you're obviously recruiting contestants. You can still sign up for this, right? It's coming up in, a little over 2 weeks from now. We've got it on July
21st.
July 21st.
Which is a Sunday.
Okay. And, of course, you and Windermere are involved in that. And there's a couple of social events prior to the SUP Cup where people can learn a lot more about it, right?
Absolutely.
Sign up if they want to. And given the venue, sound like they could have a pretty good time, too.
Yeah, that's right. So on Tuesday, July 9th from 6 to 9 p.m., WEN and Windermere will be at the Top Hat for a night of community action.
Okay.
And then on Monday, July 15th, we'll be at the Mar Bar from 6 p.m. to close.
Doing pretty much the same thing.
Same thing.
6 to 9, same hours?
6 p.m. to close at the Mar Bar.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit later hours that night.
Okay. So you can stop in at either one of those. You don't have to come to both. You don't have to come to either one for that matter, but you can stop in either one, learn more about it, and sign up if you want to, right?
Exactly. And maybe buy a few raffle tickets. We have beautiful handmade SUP paddles by local Larry Shadow that we're raffling off. And Windermere is raffling off a paddleboard.
Oh, very nice.
So you can get your gear for the race and join us.
Well, it is a fundraiser for. What are we raising funds for?
For the Watershed Education Network.
Okay.
So we're dedicated to fostering knowledge, appreciation, and awareness of watershed health through science and outreach. And that involves a lot of community action with K through 12 kids and adults.
What is a watershed exactly? Take us through that. We'll start at a ground level here, as it were. And why is its education so important?
Well, the way I explain it to kids is a watershed is our whole landscape. Water comes down from the mountains and flows all the way through our creeks, our streams, our rivers. And the reason why it's important is because it supports all local wildlife.
Is an organization like this common in communities, or is this something rather unique to Missoula?
In my experience, it's unique.
Okay.
Because of how heavily we focus on education and nurturing citizen science. So we really start with the little ones and work our way through the community, teaching as many people as we can good environmental stewardship habits.
This is Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, and our guest is Katrina Thornus, Watershed Education Network Communications Coordinator. And we'll talk more about the Watershed Network, and we'll talk more about the Sup Cup race. We got to bring it back to that too. But I didn't ask you a little bit about your background, how you got, what is your background and how you got involved with the Watershed Education Network.
Well, it's actually kind of a funny story. I was at a Moscow Monday at Montgomery Distillery, and
okay, where could this possibly lead? Let's find out.
Well, these great events that we're talking about with Top Hat and Marbar, WEN was having one of those at Montgomery, and I was a local patron, and I entered one of their raffles for a telescope, and I won.
Okay.
So I dropped by WEN's office to pick up my telescope.
And again, when you say WEN, just so if people are
WEN.
WEN is the acronym for Watershed Education.
Yeah.
Okay, so you dropped by WEN to get your telescope.
I did, and I met the staff, and it was kind of love at first sight. I loved being in there, and I was studying environmental studies at the time. And I thought, maybe someday I'll volunteer with these guys.
Okay.
And I did, and that turned into an AmeriCorps internship, which turned into a job.
How long ago did all of this start to evolve?
A little over a year ago.
Okay, so you just passed your 1-year anniversary with the.
Yeah, I did.
How's the telescope? Is it working good for you?
It is. I love it.
You taking it down to the distillery to show all your friends, or does it stay at home?
It stays at home.
It is. Okay. Community awareness, Katrina. What kinds of I don't know if concerns is the right word, but I'll use it. What kinds of concerns or interests might you uncover that you would want to get the word out about? I mean, I realize that you're educating a lot of youngsters, and we'll get to that eventually, but you probably from time to time come across something that you think, well, maybe we should make some people aware of that.
Right. Well, I think, personally, a soft spot for me is when I meet a kid on a field trip who clearly hasn't been near a creek yet. And it's surprising to me how many local children don't spend time in their own backyards. And really, Missoula's a river town. We have water all around us. And I'd like to see more kids who are familiar with these waterways and who get that good time outside.
Well, that involves recruitment, of course, how you go about. And, of course, I guess that's kind of on your shoulders a lot, isn't it, since you're the communications coordinator. Recruitment is getting the word out to let schools, I assume, schools, therefore teachers, therefore students.
Exactly. Right? And on the other side of that, finding volunteers to help at our field trips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, Katrina Thornus, Watershed Education Network Communications Coordinator. Katrina, what are some of your programs? I guess we just barely started to talk about this. What are some of your programs that involve educating people, particularly young people, I assume?
Yeah, well, the ones that we were just talking about were our school stream monitoring options.
Okay.
So really K through 12th grade, and we teach water monitoring, but more than that, we involve art, play, song, dance, to really get a full picture of river health and riparian areas, which it's so fun. But on the more serious scientific side, these protocols involve biological, physical, and chemical aspects. So we try to exercise their minds and just get them really engaged with their natural environments.
Yeah, I suppose that's key. If you don't have them engaged and their mind is wandering, especially, and you're not in a sterile classroom. You are out in nature.
Field, but we do classroom visits. We do. Yeah, we lead with that and we wrap it up with that.
Yeah. But as far as staying focused and engaged, you're out there, and of course the butterflies come by.
Sure, people walking dogs.
Yeah, and there's a doe over in the meadow and whatnot. So I would imagine the entertainment aspect or the song and dance and learning that way is actually probably pretty critical. That's a critical step to get them involved in that.
Absolutely. And actually, I was on a field trip last week with some high schoolers, and I could tell that they were getting bored. And we were looking at aquatic macroinvertebrates, which, layman's terms, water bugs.
Okay.
And their eyes started getting glassy after a little bit. And I said, "Do you guys want to hear the bug anatomy song that I sang to kindergartners?" And they just started laughing. They're like, "Yeah, why don't you sing that?" kind of sarcastically. And I did. And they just livened right up. So that was kind of funny.
Wow. That must be a heck of a song that you're able to get the attention of high schoolers. So what about the time investment on the kids' part when you're able to, you said you go into the classroom and kind of introduce yourselves, do an introductory walkthrough so they at least kind of have an understanding of what we will do if we can get you out on a field trip. Full day, half day, typically how long are our kids engaged with the day with the Watershed Education Network?
So it's usually split up into half days.
Okay.
So a field trip will typically be half a day, but sometimes longer, depending on how many classes come to the field trip. So for our classroom visits, hour, 2 hours, but longer in the field, for sure.
Yeah, they probably love that.
They do.
You mentioned volunteers are a critical thing. What are some of the activities that people who would like to volunteer get involved in?
Well, the way I see it, we are kind of split into two different sections. So there's the school stream monitoring program that you can volunteer with and for, but there's also our citizen science stream team, which is volunteer based. So if you're more interested in getting involved with kids and teaching lessons, exposing them to our rivers, then you'd want to focus on our school stream monitoring options. But if you just want to focus on collecting data, putting on your waders, getting out in the stream, then there's our citizen science stream team, which is another great option for volunteers.
So a lot of choices.
A lot of choices, yeah.
Are you ever contacted or visited? I imagine there's got to be some homeowners or landowners who are curious about this. If they're considering being a homeowner and landowner near a watershed area, are you contacted by them, or are they, if they've heard of you and you kind of know what you do, are they kind of looking for a little bit of education from the Watershed Education Network too?
You know what? I am not sure how many homeowners have contacted us.
Okay.
That would be a good question for our executive director, but I would think that it could be a wise decision because we do have professionals in office who can offer a lot of information and education pertaining to surrounding waterways, especially if you're looking to buy a home or own a home and are interested in helping with maintenance of your local ecosystem.
This is Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, and our guest, Katrina Thornus, Watershed Education Network Community Coordinator. And we'll talk more about the SUP Cup. That's a fundraising event coming up, put on by Windermere Real Estate. We'll get back to that. Katrina, besides the obvious, like, throwing trash in the river, of course, what are common mistakes you see that you feel more education and awareness would benefit the community?
Well, groundwater awareness is a big one. And we do have a groundwater program that helps with that. But also just interaction with wildlife in these riparian areas is a big one.
There are so many different terms, aquifer, watershed, turbidity, even wetlands and groundwater. Do they all tie in with the education that you're providing these kids? Are there big differences, or is that a significant or an important part of what you're trying to teach the kids out on the field trips?
Absolutely, and our instructors do focus heavily on these components.
Okay.
And I think the older the audience, the more in depth we go.
Sure.
So these little guys, everything is a little bit more broad. But the older you get, the more you can learn in detail and actually retain that information.
Well, take us through a step at a time. If you're trying to teach them about maybe the aquifer compared to, say, oh, I don't know, what's a good example? The watershed, I don't know, but if you're trying to teach them about the aquifer, let's say, where do you start with that?
Well, you can lead in with a question like, where do you think water goes once it reaches the ground?
Very good.
And it's amazing how many kids guess correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with little ones, an activity that we've done in the past is bunch up a piece of paper, kind of let it unfold a bit, and then take watercolors.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're imagining a piece of paper that's kind of pointing upward,
All right.
set it on a table, take watercolors, and let the water drip down and see how it flows through the creases. So that's a way to get little ones to visualize how our water reaches the ground, flowing down from a mountain, and where it might go from there. So visual learning.
That's good. As a community, how would you say? I know you've only been on the job a little over a year now. As a community, how do you think Missoula does? How do we grade out as students of our waterways? There's always room for improvement. Always lots that not only kids but adults can learn. But overall, your observation, your impression of that, do we do a pretty good job? Are we pretty good stewards of the water around here?
Yeah, I would say so. Missoula really cares about their environment, and that's clear to me.
Let's go into some details about you mentioned them, and it's volunteers, but I'd like to have you talk a little bit more about your STREAM team, Citizen Science Program. What all's involved there?
So our STREAM team is a citizen science group where Missoula community members and students, actually, whether you're in college or high school, can engage in water monitoring on local streams. And what's involved there, it's actually a pretty simple process. You go online to our website, montanawatershed.org, fill out a volunteer application, then either schedule a time to come in and meet with our STREAM team coordinator, Asa Wise, or we'll have our next training posted and you attend one of those. After you've attended a training or talked with our STREAM team coordinator, then we get you out on the field, and that usually happens every Sunday.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So busy.
It is.
Everyone knows Rattlesnake Creek. I think when we were kind of getting acquainted before we started the show, you'd mentioned some things about Grant Creek as well, but everyone knows Rattlesnake Creek.
Right.
At least as a fairly fast-moving stream that comes tumbling down into the Clark Fork, but it has a little bit of that iconic image, I guess you would say. What are some things you've discovered or learned about Rattlesnake Creek that you've found interesting and that you like to share with your field trip folks?
Well, I actually haven't participated in STREAM team, but some fun facts that I have learned are that people kayak out of Rattlesnake Creek into the Clark Fork during high water.
Wow.
So it does get some recreational usage. And the other thing that I learned from firsthand experience last year was that it's a great location for summer camps. There's a pavilion, a playground. You're not too far from the Missoula International School.
Uh-huh.
And it is pretty safe for kiddos during low water, especially with a good safety talk beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I guess I just got into the mindset when we had Deb on from the Watershed Education Network early this year. I got into the mindset, wrongfully so, I would say, that when you're doing these things for kids and educational field trips and getting them involved and engaged, that's during the school year only, and that's obviously not the case.
No, we actually have 2 summer camps coming up with Missoula, well, in partnership with Missoula International School.
Oh.
Yeah. Our first one is July 15th through the 19th, and we still have openings for kiddos ages 7 to 10.
Okay.
And our second one is August 5th through the 9th.
Mm-hmm. Same age range?
Same age range, same camp.
So there are openings for those if
Yeah.
people, you don't have to necessarily be affiliated in any way with the international school.
No.
If folks,
Yeah.
okay,
And you do register through their website, though.
okay, all right. What will campers typically get to do? I'll bet I bet you're planning a full agenda for them. This is another one that probably falls on the shoulders of the communications coordinator.
So we start out every morning at the Missoula International School, and then we head over to Rattlesnake Creek on foot.
Okay.
And from there, we have our daily safety talk, and then it's creek time. So we get out in the water, turn over rocks, look at bugs, study them, play, take breaks for art, song, dance.
Keep them engaged.
Keep them engaged.
That's right.
And it's a full week of fun.
And you said that if folks are interested in having their kids do that, and I think you said the age range was, 7 to 10 years of age?
Yep.
And if there's some parents out there listening or grandparents or whatever that think that their youngsters might benefit from that, you said they have to register via the Missoula International School website, or is there a link on yours through theirs?
So mismt.org.
mismt.org, okay.
And you'll want to go to the extended learning option on their menu.
All right.
Choose July or August camps, and if you scroll down, you'll see Rattlesnake Creek Explorations.
Okay. All right. Well, we just wanted to throw that out there and make sure that people were aware of it. You used an example of slightly older kids that you're out and you had to sing the bug song and you got them.
Yeah, I did.
You got them kind of dialed in. Are there any other examples of recent field trips with young people that you thought were very rewarding for you? A lot of fun?
Sure. But we recently partnered with the city's stormwater utility division, and we went through the 44 ranch development to take a look at the easement for Grant Creek. And that was with Hellgate Elementary fourth graders. And I felt like that was a really good opportunity to show kids how close they are to water.
Right.
Even just from their school.
Yeah.
The other field trip that I really enjoyed was Fish Week with Washington middle schoolers.
Fish Week.
Fish Week in partnership with West Slope Chapter Trout Unlimited. We took kids to Bancroft Pond for a full week of learning how to fly fish, doing dry fly, live bug comparisons, studying aquatic macroinvertebrates, and riparian exploration, trying to teach good environmental citizenship habits.
Did you have did the same group of kids go each day for the week? Or
No.
You had a different group every day of the week? Or?
2 groups per day.
2 per day?
Mm-hmm.
All right. But the same, that's why I called it Fish Week, because you had the same
Week.
agenda for each of those.
Yeah.
2 per day for the full week.
Yeah, and that's an annual event.
And was there an age range for those, or was that
7th graders?
That was all 7th graders.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you feel they picked up on that pretty well? Did they? Most of them.
I think they loved it.
Yeah.
I really do. With those 4 different stations, they were kept busy. The activities were engaging and different enough from each other, and I think they learned a little bit too. So,
how is the Bancroft Pond? That has been around a long time in Missoula, and it hadn't even crossed my mind until we happened to drive by it after breakfast somewhere a few Saturdays ago. And I thought, oh yeah, the Bancroft Pond. What kind of shape is it in? How's it doing?
oh, it looks lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that people are keeping it clean and mostly leaving the wildlife alone.
Mostly. Good. Okay. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Our guest is Katrina Thornus, Watershed Education Network Communications Coordinator. Special thank you to some of Diane's marketing partners that help bring you Missoula Real Estate Today. Rob Fleming with Man Mortgage, Miles Link of Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett from MakeItMissoula.com. We sure appreciate all of them. And Katrina, let's go ahead. We've only got a few minutes left here, but let's go back. Let's go ahead and get back to the Sup Cup paddleboard race, which you said that this is a pretty leisurely, low impact kind of competition in terms of it being a paddleboard race. Hopefully you find a pretty calm stretch of the river to do this, right?
Well, it is a pretty calm stretch of the river, and it's as leisurely as you want it to be. If you're competitive, you could register as an elite competitor. But I know that I'll be competing in the recreational division for sure.
What would you like to see? How many people would you like to see turn out for this? Just as many as possible?
As many as possible.
Yeah.
That would be so great. And
okay. We got enough to accommodate a large number if need be then, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got a couple of get acquainted orientation type events that we mentioned at the beginning of the show. Let's back up to those. Let's start July 9th. Is that the first one?
July 9th at the Top Hat from 6 to 9 p.m. for a night of community action.
Okay.
You'll be able to register for the 7th annual Windermere Sup Cup. Maybe buy a few raffle tickets or some handmade paddles. And Windermere is actually raffling off a paddle board. So you could get all the gear you need for this race through raffle tickets.
When you say community action as well, you being a communications coordinator, do you have some literature there? Do you have a setup or display or anything that kind of helps people in case they walk in and go, I don't know what a watershed education network is?
Right. Yeah, we will have tabling set up.
Okay.
And then 25% of all food and beverage sales will be donated to our organization.
Very
which
nice.
is tremendous.
Okay. And that's one we're talking about is July 9th at the Top Hat.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6 days later, we're going to turn it, and the hours on that one?
6 to 9 p.m.
Right.
On a Tuesday.
A little bit longer on a Monday. Then you're moving down the road downtown to the Mar Bar, right?
To the Mar Bar, yes. And that's Monday, July 15th from 6 p.m. till close.
Wow. Okay. All right. But the same idea. You will have kind of educational displays and if folks want to register and things like that.
Sure.
Is it all individuals? Can a handful of crazy folks get together as a team, or how do they do that?
Oh, either way, you can make your own team or register as an individual.
Okay. All right. Is there an actual race finish line? How do they do that?
So, yeah, there is actually. You will have a chip timer on as you're going down the river. And then somebody grabs your board and paddle for you, and you run or walk and run through the finish line. And then your chip is red, and you have your official race time.
All right.
So it's kind of fun. And that's where the luau is. Bess Reed Memorial Park. We start at the Sharon exit.
Okay. All right. Well, folks, if you are interested in this in any way, you should come to either one of those two orientation sessions the evening of July 9th, just a few days from now, and that's a Tuesday, or Monday, July 15th at the Mar Bar. If you're interested at all, just drop by. And I'm sure, Katrina, the people can contact the Watershed Education Network as well. And so that before we wrap it up here, I don't want time to get away without you saying, where is it? What is it? How do you get a hold of you folks and everything about the Watershed Education Network?
Absolutely. So our office is located at 802 East Front Street. And our phone number is 406-541-9287. You can reach me at water@montanawatershed.org, or our executive director, and her email is deb@montanawatershed.org.
Is that the website, montanawatershed.org?
Our website is montanawatershed.org.
Yeah. For email contact, those other ones.
Yes.
And your handle is water.
Water, yeah.
Okay. Good fit.
Thank you.
Yeah. Missoula Real Estate today with Katrina Thornus, Watershed Education Network Communications Coordinator. I really appreciate you coming in. I know it kind of got thrown on you last minute there. And,
No.
I want to wish you all the best with the Sup Cup this year.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today. If you have any suggested topics for any future Missoula Real Estate Today programs or any questions about buying or selling, contact Diane Beck with Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@realtor.com or visit her website homesinmissoula.com. That's homesinmissoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.